Dude, get over here now. Yeah, what's up? I didn't know you were a tracer. A what? What are you talking about? Look, you traced the hand for that picture. First of all, it's not a picture, it's a drawing. And yeah, I traced the hand. See, I traced so that it helps me learn. Plus, this was a hand study. No excuse. Who knows what else you traced? Maybe everything you drew was literally fake. No, I literally just told you. I traced because it helps me learn. No, tracing is tracing. And tracing is technically cheating. So you're a cheater. You're an art cheater. What do you want me to do with that? Hello, and welcome to this video. I'm your host, Nightmarish, and today we're on the topic of tracing and how it isn't actually bad. But first, what is tracing? Tracing is, well, exactly how it sounds. It's going over an existing artwork, drawing over it with the goal of copying or duplicating the artwork. Examples will be on screen here because I'm not sure if I explained that properly, and this is my own art I'm tracing. And from that definition given, you might be thinking copying is basically stealing, right? So tracing is obviously bad. But no, it's not as simple as that, because tracing is used for various reasons, such as learning anatomy, art style studies, or getting down a pose, or most commonly, when adding hands, most artists trace over their reference first and use that traced versions or try to copy it. And small side note here, but why are hands so gosh darn hard to draw? It's literally complicated for no reason, but that's just anatomy for you. Tracing can be used as a way to learn and improve, especially when starting. It's easy to be overwhelmed by the various things that you have to learn, I'm going to use the example of anatomy again. Tracing can provide a type of guidance, and you can say you yourself as an artist hasn't traced anything before. You haven't traced over anything in your whole artistic journey? Impossible. You're lying. Not to mention, there are different types of tracing and reasons to trace. There's something called guideline tracing. I'm sure there's another term for it, but this is how I remember it. It's where you trace over an art piece to build guidelines and break it down into simple shapes. For example, the head into circles and the different poses into squares. This is made for you to better understand an art piece, to replicate it, or to study it. I find this form of tracing especially useful as a visual arts learner. There are times where you have to write long essays based on an art piece, where you have to analyze and compare based on the principles of art, and I find tracing over the artwork and putting some notes over the traced over places allows me to see how the artist has used the elements of arts and spot unique and subtle things like composition. And quite frankly, when I do this, I feel more connected to the art piece. It's breaking it down in a simple way and seeing things from the lens of the artist, as if you yourself was building up that art piece. And it's an amazing practice for old paintings and sketches and more. You don't just trace over artworks though, but people as well. For something like anatomy, a pose, or learning realism, it can be a great way to expand upon the ways you draw people. For example, I take faces off of Pinterest and trace them, copying the face shape, where the eyes should go and where the nose and lips should go. I try stylizing it and putting it in my own style. It gives me ideas and further adds onto my visual library. It also helps me get rid of same face syndrome and same body syndrome, as I will be looking at a variety of different faces and body types, tracing over them, and subconsciously taking notes of the different traits. You can trace almost anything: people, landscape, animals, objects, clothes, cities, and more. And hear me out on this, guys, but you can also trace for fun, because art isn't just about progression. It's a hobby to many people and it's done for fun, which I'll come back to this point again. Another thing that I've seen a lot of is tracing is cheating. Tracing is not breaking any rules. It's not cheating, it's not lazy, and as long as it helps you out and gives you the desired outcome, there's literally nothing wrong with it. There are literally bases and sketches made to be traced or copied off of, such as the resources provided by IBS Paint or even resources provided by other artists on Pinterest. When people provide pose references or stuff that you can sketch over or trace over. But Pinterest can be deceiving, as for example, the art provided might be reposted without credit and the original artist might not permit tracing. But Pinterest is honestly such an iffy app, and ever since the influx of AI art, that app has been on a downward spiral, in my opinion. But tracing can also be very harmful, such as the countless examples of people blatantly copying and stealing others' art by tracing over it, changing a few things and saying it's original and theirs. And that's just disgusting behavior that is made worse when they claim the original artist was the one who traced over them, even though it's very clear who the tracer is. It's blatant art theft. And though not needed, I highly suggest when tracing over another person's art, credit the artist. It doesn't kill and costs literally nothing. It avoids a whole lot of callouts and scrambling to find the original, especially if the traced piece becomes so popular, people regard it as the original, even though it's not. To be honest, I really don't get the unwillingness and hatred for crediting other people, especially if I support them. I would want other people to notice them, and crediting them could do that. It could unlock them to a larger audience, especially if the traced piece gets more recognition or becomes more popular. It brings more attention to the artist and shows a little bit more appreciation and care to what you're doing. But let's talk about if the original artist doesn't permit you to trace over their artworks. Simple answer: don't trace over their artworks. If that person is uncomfortable with it, it's a boundary. Just don't do that. It is their art after all, and you yourself are not entitled to it or don't own it just because it was posted online. But it is up to you whether or not you want to respect the boundary created by the original artist. And if you do decide to break boundaries, don't be surprised when you're called out on such behavior. Don't start saying, "I didn't know," even though it was made very clear to you. And if you really didn't know, address it and don't do it again. But if it's something that you continuously do, going to the artist page where the artist is like, "Don't trace over my art," and you trace over their art, what you're doing is not okay, and you should be held accountable for it. And you yourself, the tracer, should be able to acknowledge it and take in that criticism. And another thing I don't see a lot of people discuss is the selling of traced art, as if it was the original, without telling clients the artwork they receive isn't original and is just stolen. But there are people who do commissions where they state that they will be tracing. Like, it's often real life objects or images of their clients or their pets, for example, turning them stylized by tracing over it to get a guideline or something like that. That isn't a bad thing, especially if you're being transparent about the process, and it's up to the clients who determine if they want to buy it. But there's also just something scummy about tracing over another artist's art piece and selling it, when you could actually just redirect your clients to that artist, further showing them support. It's dishonest and misleading. And one last thing I want to talk about is the harassment that comes when you're tracing art. For whatever reason, you will get harassed, bullied, and beaten down by this community simply for tracing art, even if it's for learning purposes or whatever. People cannot just, think. People can't just acknowledge that this could be used as a way to learn and leave it, because it's literally, if tracing is used as a way to learn, it's part of your learning process, it's part of your own journey, it's part of the way you build up your artistic skills, and it's part of the way you enjoy art. What business does anyone have to do with it, especially if it isn't affecting them? For something harmless like tracing over a hand or a pose, harassment is not warranted, and for more serious situations, such as when a whole art piece is blatantly stolen, call that person out respectfully. You do not have to be coming out to bring them justice by harassing them, insulting them, and that is not helping the situation at all, and it will never help the situation. If anything, it's going to push the situation to an even worse extent. And if the person, after you respectfully, inform them about how stealing of another person's artwork isn't okay, and they refuse to listen, what you can do instead of harassing the tracers is you can actually inform other people of what this person is doing so that they know what they're getting into. It's just informing the public, informing people who might interact with this person that, hey, this person traces this artist. Go and support this artist, the original artist, rather than the tracer, because what they're doing is clearly not okay. Tracing isn't just black and white. It's not simple. There are different levels to it, and there is a good and bad side of tracing. It's important that you yourself do your own research and come to your own conclusions, and knowing what type of tracing is okay and what type isn't okay. This video was not meant to bring any excuses to people who blatantly steal art. It wasn't meant to cover up the bad side of tracing. It was meant to inform you, the audience, about how tracing can be used in different ways and the different scenarios for it. I don't support the blatant stealing of other people's art, and I don't support the blatant bullying for an artist simply tracing over a hand or a pose, because surprise, surprise, in this community you will get literally harassed for anything. But yeah, this is the end of the video. I would honestly love to begin a discussion on this, because there are some things that I might have missed, because I'm going off of what I've actually seen and my own personal experiences. I might have missed quite a bit, and quite frankly, I would love for you, my viewers, to fill me in on those parts that I haven't talked about, or to even bring in your own stories and situations of tracing. Thank you for watching this video. If you made it this far, leave me a cat emoji, because sketchy cat, the whole discussion was about tracing. I don't know, a cat emoji. Just leave me this cat emoji, specifically the one on screen. And you know what? Why not just leave me a subscribe? Just subscribe to me. Literally, it doesn't cost anything, and that would be very helpful. To also leave a like and comment down your opinions too. I don't know if you know this, but I read all your comments like a creep. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next week, Wednesday, for another upload. Okay, bye bye. Thank you for watching.